All
Hey,
right,
thanks.
now we're
Oh,
good.
wow. I like your background.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm glad you took a few minutes to talk with me about Disfluency. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Um, so this is the character of Jane is one that you've kind of been with for a while because you were part of the short film and now the feature. Talk to me about the character and what it's been like being her for so long, like being her in two different stories here.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the short film was really just like a snapshot in time in Jane's life, like or surrounding the events
Mm.
that, these events. And also, it's a short film and you can only cover so much ground. And so I tried to give her as much life as I could, but in a lot of ways, like, I was pulling from things to, from my own imagination to like create who Jane was. But then, with the gift of like a feature script, you have a lot more on the page to like play off of. And like, one of the things that I was really that I like loved about the feature and that was so exciting to me was that it wasn't this just like heavy trauma movie, that there was so much more. Like, we come into it thinking it's like a sort of summer fun movie, and in a lot of ways it's like a take on a coming of age story, and that gives us so much ground to play with, like, what she's like coming back to her hometown and stuff, like so much outside of like the event of this thing, which was just such a gift to get to play with. And I love Jane, and she's become like a part of me, and I love the way that she has like, evolved over the years, and it's exciting that people are getting to see her now.
Yeah, it's one of the things I really liked about it was that I kind of went into it expecting it to be much heavier than it is, and it is, it's dealing with obviously it's dealing with trauma and PTSD and kind of recovering from that and moving on and figuring that sort of stuff out. But it is a very light film in a lot of ways. Like I really felt like the scenes where you were interacting with your friends or with your sister all had a certain light touch to them, and I thought that was one of the real um, highlights of the movie.
Mm, thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's thank you. I'm glad that you like that, because it's that's one of my favorite things about the movie. And yeah.
yeah. What were you able to working with Anna Baumgarten, the writer and the director? Were you able to bring aspects of your own to the character as well?
Yeah, totally. I mean, what I was so grateful for about Anna as a writer and director was that, and producer, that she was like, she very much brought me in as a collaborator, which I really appreciated. And so, like, one of the first things we did with the short, because obviously this is like it's a very personal story to her. Like, it's a different story, but like in a lot of ways was based on some things in her life. And like right before we did the short, she and Laura, who directed the short, when me and Laura went over to Anna's house, and we like sat down, we like sat on the floor and like on the couch, and like Anna like really opened up about all of her about like what happened to her and stuff. And like it was a very like open conversation that really laid the groundwork for like the collaboration ahead. And like, I just really tried to, especially going into it, like just absorb as much as I can, because I really wanted to do the story justice. And like, so I just tried to absorb and absorb and absorb. So by the time that we were on set, I was able to live that life as myself, as my version of Jane, who's lived through these events. And yeah, and there's a lot of like humor things that are like very much me that are added, that are in there, and very much like weird me quirks that found their way in. Yeah.
True to the title, the movie deals a lot with communication and how we communicate with others following a trauma event, and how the kind of things we are willing to reveal or not reveal. A lot of that stuff is going on in this movie, and there's a really great scene in there where uh where Jane begins teaching sign language to her friend Amber. I thought it was a really great. You had a lot of great moments with Amber, and the actress who plays her. But the one where you have your kind of a reveal moment, and that seemed like a really powerful moment. Was that a particularly difficult scene to shoot?
Yeah, it definitely had its challenges, but we anticipated the challenges, long before going into production. So Chelsea and I had been working with a sign language teacher who was and coach who was teaching us like the basics of sign language and also slowly like building learning that scene. And we like in a lot of ways learned it like a dance, like with our hands and with our which was really interesting. And I really like learning sign language was really such a gift that came out of this, and it's such a unique way to communicate, and I'm really glad I like got the experience to do that and to like have a scene that you're communicating something so vulnerable and so personal through a medium that's like kind of already difficult to to like master on its own.
Yeah.
Really sort of nicely mirrored how difficult it is to have those conversations, and so there is like a really sort of beautiful alchemy that comes out in that scene. And yeah.
Did you keep up with your sign language? Or do you still remember it? Do you still use it?
I did not keep up. But I do still remember I like that scene, the dance is like I don't want to do it now to give it
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
movie, but like it's still ingrained in my head and sometimes it'll pop up like some of the like I like
Yeah, it's I learned like some of it for a little while, and once you get out of practice, it's so hard to remember. Uh,
but I'd like to revisit it. It's such a yeah, it's a really beautiful language and yeah.
you get to work with your sister Ariela in this movie, but the the dynamics a bit flipped. 'Cause she's the younger one, am I right? She's the younger
Yeah.
one because she plays the older sister,
Yeah.
Lacey, in this movie. What was that like, and did she relish the chance to be the elder?
You know, it's funny. It's funny because at first she was like, "There's no way." Like, particularly her, she was like, "I'm like the baby sister. Like, I'm like, and I was like, I think we can. I sort of talked to her because I was like, that's that's the dynamic Anna wants in this, and I was like, we really wanted to work together, and we really wanted her to do it, and she really wanted to do it, and she was like, but she had a lot of reservations about being the older sister. And it was funny too, like I found myself because Jane in a lot of ways like has to rely on Lacey in a way that like is very like younger sister, older sister, but there is also a dynamic of like a push and pull that she has of like not wanting to rely on her. And I think that also it was interesting going on the journey of like playing make believe that she was my older sister and there was that similar push and pull of like I have to let her take care of me but I don't want to because of my like older sister pride but in the circumstances it's not the older sister pride, it's the pride of like wanting to maintain the image of who Jane is in her sister's eyes. And so there's a lot of like paralleling dynamics that happen and from like just inverting that I think was also like captured something really beautiful in the
Have you two
movie.
had a lot of chances to act together before?
This was our first. I think we were trying to remember because it feels like we are now like we're now like working together on like our writing, directing, producing side of things, which has been like really great. And so it feels like we've been working together a lot. But yeah, this is the only time that we've like acted together, which was very special.
In some of these projects you two are working on together, are you going to be acting in those together too?
We are not. I think that like we've both been moving into writing and directing also, and I have realized for myself that I think that both directing and acting take 100% of your brain, and I can never do both at the same time. I want to keep doing both, but just separately.
This is Anna's feature debut. What was it like working with her behind the camera for the first time?
You wouldn't guess that it was her first time. She had such a mastery and such a like she really like one of the things that we realized from the beginning was we so spoke the same language and it was amazing. Like the first day, I think the first scenes we shot were the stuff with Chelsea and the kid in the house. And I remember her coming in and she was just giving the exact type of notes that, because as an actor, there are notes that are like great to get in the type of notes that you roll your eyes at, that you're just like, and you never really know what you're getting into with the director, that you're like, oh God, is this going to be, someone that gives the type of notes I hate or whatever. But we just so spoke the same language from the beginning. And we were both like, oh, this is great. Like we can communicate in this really beautiful way. And, we just had this shorthand and she was so like, yeah, like I said, she really brought me as a collaborator and was like very much open to anything I brought to the table. And we like really hashed out everything, which is like how I love to work, to really excavate all of the like juice from it. And yeah, it was great.
As we talked about earlier, this is a really personal story for Anna. Does that make it an extra challenge for you to bring her story to life?
You know, it's interesting because like while it's a personal story, like it's also not her story
Right.
that you know Jane's story is very different. Anna didn't fail out of college. There's a lot that's like, and Jane was very much, and she was very much from the beginning like, I want Jane to be her own person. I want you to take, um, to take the reins there. But of course, at the same time, there is like a weight of, yeah, I want to do, the sort of roots of why this person wanted to tell this story justice. And I want to, and like survivors in general, I want to do these stories justice because they're really important stories and so often aren't told. And yeah, so I definitely felt the weight of wanting to tell this story well and did my best to be able to do them justice.
Well, I think you did a great job, Libe. I thank you for taking some time to talk with me about Disfluency. The movie begins opening tomorrow, and I believe it starts expanding on the 17th before going to VOD, I believe the week after. So thank you again. I look forward to talking to you again about whatever you got coming up next.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.